At the time, we were playing against Grayson Allen. Jason Tatum was on the team. Coach K was still coaching. I'm 6'9", 6'10", with shoes on. Going in, I wasn't even 200 pounds yet. I was like 195. Playing against guys my height that were like 250, just getting thrown around. It's a completely different level that you don't expect until you're face to face with it. My first kind of love of sports was football until I got into high school, and I was like, I'm too tall and I'm too skinny and I don't like being hit. So let's maybe try something else. So I started playing summer basketball, and that's kind of when the dream started, wanting to get a scholarship to play basketball somewhere and to really work at it and to see what we could do. It was really interesting to be recruited. I never really expected it growing up. It was crazy. I started getting calls from coaches, chaperoned around the college campuses, and having my number in jerseys laid out, and I would get tweeted about sometimes. Taking my official visit, it was just Coach B and I in the practice gym. He was talking to me about stuff that I wanted to pursue academically. Oh yeah, I want to take up philosophy maybe. My first year at college, I took philosophy. I was like, this is too much thinking. I think a lot in my own brain, too much already.
The coaches are getting paid. Most of the players are getting a scholarship to be there too. Basically professional basketball, with classes sort of thrown in the mix just to complicate things.
You go to lift, you go to practice, and I'll do 4 hours of homework and write a paper.
And then somehow be up early in the morning to
do it all again. Our coaches are very intense people who really like to stick to a schedule and a routine. Zach and I broke that routine one time. I opened the door nonchalantly. I'm like, what's up, Kirsch? What's going on? And he's got the most dreadful look on his face. Where the hell were you guys? It was dumb what we did. I kind of stepped my foot into doing content creation and some social media management. And then from there, ended up at Feeding South Dakota.
And that's the sort of thing that you like?
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm able to use my degree in. It helps a lot to know that the work that I do can actually impact somebody else's life. I had a lot of expectations for myself leading up to college. Augie had just won the national championship for Division II. Some of the best players who have ever played at Augie were going out. So I had big shoes to fill.
Welcome back to college, a show where we share the incredible transformations of international students who studied overseas in the US. This episode is a special one because the whole reason I went to college in the first place in the US was to play basketball, and today's guest comes from the US and plays basketball. He was one of my teammates. He's from a small town of Lakefield, Minnesota, just 1 hour away from Sioux Falls. Today's teammate was slower than most in picking up basketball. He didn't start playing until he was 12 years old. During this conversation, we hear this person's journey from playing middle school with his friends to being sought after by college coaches to signing and playing at one of the top NCAA Division II schools in the country. This person graduated with a double major in both media studies and communication. Upon graduating, this person tried a few jobs before discovering his current role as a social media manager at Feeding South Dakota, where he is able to feed his soul while also helping to feed the homeless. We hear the stories of the world's best athletes, but come on, what about the ones who never quite make it? In this conversation, both our guest and myself open up and share our basketball experiences throughout our life and at college. Growing up playing basketball in America looks entirely different compared to playing basketball in Australia. It was during our time at college together, I developed a true admiration for this person. Even in his darkest hour, he always managed to find a way through. I was surprised this time when I met up with him. It was almost like I'd forgotten how much we experienced together and how much I do just enjoy hanging out with this person. Please welcome my dear friend and brother-in-arms as it's time to go back to college with Bodey. Bodey Behrends.
Hello.
Here we are, mate. Welcome back to college.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah? You are?
Yes, very excited. Nervous. A little bit nervous.
A little bit nervous?
Just a little bit.
We actually caught up last night, which was awesome to see you again after all these years. But we're first basketball teammate of mine to be on the podcast.
Really? Okay,
yes.
Awesome.
So
making some history at least a little bit.
Yeah, that's why it's really exciting. And catching up with you last night, we actually went to the Augustana men's basketball game as well.
Yep.
Over at the Sanford Pentagon. And it was just such a great way to catch up because we were sort of in that environment that we had spent. I played basketball for 2 years and you finished 4 years
Yes,
of
I did.
basketball.
Yeah.
After a red shirt freshman year as well.
Yeah, it was really interesting to be back. I hadn't been to a game for at least a year probably. So it was different to see a lot of people playing that I didn't have any connection to. So it was interesting.
That's sort of how I felt. It's kind of like, this is not the team that I remember because, I mean, we used to be the team and then now it's just completely new wave of students and they're playing.
Weird how time changes that.
But, Coach B was still there.
Yes, good old Coach B was still there. And even like the coaching staff was a lot different too than what we had back in college. So it was interesting to see all that and all the changes there. And it was good to see Coach B again too.
Yeah, but still all the same plays, the same strategies, which I think personally I love the whole, because Coach B goes way back with all his experience in North Dakota State. And he's been at Augustana for I don't know how many years now.
Yeah, I don't know exactly either, but he's been here for a while.
But I'd also love to have him on the podcast and talk all about that because he has left such a legacy here. 2016, the year before we arrived at Augie, the men's basketball team won the national championship.
Yes, super interesting with that because I had committed to play for Augustana, not knowing how good they were. And then they had won that championship my senior year in high school. And, I think most people's first reactions to that would be like super pumped, but mine was like, oh no, what did I get myself
That
into?
sets the bar pretty damn high.
Yeah.
Best in Division II in NCAA.
Yeah, it was definitely going into a situation where I had some huge shoes to fill. So
100%. Well, actually, I think you should stand up and we'll have a bit of a height
Should
comparison because a lot of people think that I'm tall coming back from Australia, but I tell everyone, no, when I was in the US, I was definitely middle of the rung in terms of height.
We're
I was
growing
playing
big around here, for sure.
Very tall guys, and
Yeah.
I think you were the tallest one during our years that we were playing.
I think I was the tallest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's
do it.
stand up, do a bit of a height check.
Okay.
Bodey's head's cut in the frame because he's that tall. I think how tall exactly are you, Bodey?
Do you want me to get into specifics, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Can I increase it a little bit? I'm 6'9" usually, but if you want to get in, with shoes, probably about 6'10".
Dang.
Yeah.
So freaking tall.
I know.
I mean, and even when I caught up with you yesterday, I was like, dang, is this guy grown? I don't remember him being that tall.
And I don't present myself as that big either. I don't think. I think people get surprised usually when I stand up.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And, well, I mean, I've just been telling everyone that you're 6'11", so there you go.
I'll take that too. We'll keep it a mystery. Keep people guessing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very interested to dive back into how you even started with basketball. So maybe we should start there. If you want to talk to me
Bring it
how
all
you
the way
actually got into basketball.
Yeah, sure. Wow. So I actually kind of started a bit later than I think most people do. I'm not sure when you started playing basketball.
I was I think I was 8.
You were 8
at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about playing basketball until 6th grade. So how old are you in 6th grade?
It's about 12.
Yeah. I didn't pick up or touch a basketball until then. It was me and a group of 5 of my friends in middle school were like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's try it. And then it kind of snowballed from there, and the natural height helped a lot to keep me interested. So I went and started playing in 6th grade. And then in 8th grade, I actually got moved up from the middle school team to like the C squad team in high school. So I actually got to kind of skip a grade. And
So what's the C squad team?
so in high school, at least in America, you have your varsity team. So that's like the main team that everyone goes to watch for, school basketball. And then you'll have the B squad team, which is usually made up of sophomores and maybe some juniors in high school.
Yeah, so
And then
mainly
C squad's
sort
like,
of the
so I was
younger
playing
players.
I was playing freshman basketball as like an 8th grader. So yeah.
Right, okay. Because normally freshman is grade 9, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So freshman, year 9, 10 is sophomore, 11 junior,
Yep.
and 12 is senior.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got to play a grade up most of the time I played.
Okay. So even from the early ages, I'm sure you were pretty damn tall.
Very dang tall. Yeah. I was usually the tallest one in my class. So I don't know why I said usually. I was the tallest one in my class.
Probably by far.
Yeah.
Were you playing any other sports before you jumped into basketball?
So my first kind of love of sports was football. All my friends growing up in elementary school, all we ever did was play football, American football, in elementary school at like recess and stuff. So I'd always dreamed of playing like professional football for a while until I got into high school, and I was like, I'm too tall and I'm too skinny and I don't like being hit. So let's maybe try something else.
When people are tackling you, they probably just take out your legs.
Yep.
Yeah.
It wasn't, my body is not built for that game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So basketball is maybe a better suit for you.
Yes. And I ended up just loving it a lot more than football eventually. Plus, football was a lot more, I didn't quite understand it. It was a lot more thinking than I initially realized.
Yeah, even I still don't understand. It's a bit of a strange game, but
I'm right there with you. I still don't understand it.
Very tactical game.
It is.
Surprisingly. It's just sort of brute force with the big, strong guys who are blocking, and then the super athletic guys who are running, and then the precision of the quarterback to throw the ball. But it's all played out like a bit of like a chess game.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of like closest thing you can get to war, really, if you think about it.
I've never thought about it like that, but yeah.
If you think about it, yeah, it's a lot of tactics and things like that. So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so, tell me a bit more about the high school basketball scene.
Yeah.
Because I should mention too, you grew up in what town in Minnesota?
A town no one's ever gonna know. It's called Lakefield, Minnesota, which gets confused for Lakeville, which is like a suburb of the cities in Minnesota. That's not where I'm from.
So
Lakefield is an hour and a half away from here, Sioux Falls. So I grew up very close to Sioux Falls.
And so that must be a pretty small town.
Yeah, town of just over 1,000. It's not 2,000.
That's tiny.
Yeah, it's very small. So we were combined with a town over called Jackson for high school, and we were Jackson County Central. So it was my town and another little town combined for a high school.
Yeah. So I'm guessing small town, there probably wasn't really too much to do. So I think sports would probably be a great place for kids to gravitate towards.
Yeah, it took up a lot of our time. It's pretty much what all my friends and I ever thought about, really, was after school was done, where are we going to go? Either play football or basketball, and what sport we're going to play that day.
And so with your team in high school, what was that what were the trainings like? What was sort of a weekly schedule for a high school athlete?
It changed a bit when I kind of got into high school. Jackson County Central, the school that I'm from, isn't much of a basketball school. You know how some schools just kind of have a sport they really identify with. And growing up, it was always, in my high school, was football and wrestling was the biggest one. So, like I said, I had joined in middle school with 5 other of my buddies. And we kind of really committed once we realized that we kind of really liked the sport. And we were kind of looked at by the coaches in high school a lot as we were growing older and going up through the grades. And I'm a little proud of it, to be honest, because we kind of changed the culture of the school a little bit to be less leaned toward football and wrestling. And we kind of made it a bit more of a basketball school. And we
sort of brought the hype and said, hey, guys, look at us. We're really damn good.
Yes.
Come
at
check
least
us
we tried
out at the basketball games.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun to be able to kind of mold a culture, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And to bring some excitement towards the sport that had never been there at a school before. But to get back to your original question, I think was about how training, was.
Yeah, sort of a weekly schedule, because for us, our sport back home in Australia is completely different. We have club sport is sort of where we play, which would be similar to like the AAU that you guys play over summer.
Yep.
But we just do that all year round, and that's sort of how our sport works. So we would even train, and often if you're taking your basketball seriously back home, you'd be playing for probably more than one team. You'd be playing on like a Friday night competition, which is sort of still the junior leagues. But then as you sort of get a little bit older, start to play in this competition called, in Victoria, Big V, which is kind of a statewide competition. And so you'd be playing in both of those teams, and you'd train for each of those probably 2 trainings a week. So that sort of ends up being 4 days of training. But I'm pretty sure you guys here would naturally be training 4 or 5 days a week just with your one team.
Depending. So like you were saying that you kind of played all year round. It's a very different for sports here in America because you really only train and practice usually in season. So to get ready for basketball season, I would always join other sports. So like my senior season or 12th grade in high school, I joined cross country to get in
Did you
shape.
really?
I did, yes. So I actually got put there's a sports column in Minnesota called John's Journal, I believe, and I actually got featured in a story because I was running next to some very, very small people, and it just looked really funny. And there was a viral picture of me running a varsity cross country meet, and there was a small like freshman kid running next to me. So it was pretty cool to be able to do that.
My gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
and
I wish I could find that picture. I'm not sure it is.
And that year, like that age group as well. During high school, you have some of the freshmen coming in who are like still underdeveloped, yet to hit puberty.
Yeah.
And so if you're a little bit older and naturally taller by itself, well,
it was an interesting sight for sure. Yeah.
Do you still have that picture?
Somewhere I'd have
You'll
to
have
find
to dig it up and give it to me so we can share that around.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely look for that. And I'll see if I can find the article too, because there was 2 separate things. I was running next to a kid that was really tiny, and that got viral. And then I had some guy interview me for that column.
There you go. Links below.
Yeah,
go check it
hopefully.
out.
It was quite a few years ago, so maybe it'll still be around, but I don't know.
So you're playing a few different sports, and you decided to do cross country just to gain a bit of fitness for the basketball season.
Yeah. For my senior season, I just wanted to get ready for it. And I apologize. I kind of forgot the original question. It was how American sports kind of prepare.
The training schedule.
But it is a lot different. Like you said that you had in Australia, you guys kind of practice all the time, all year round because of club, but we can't do that in season with high school sports here in America. So you kind of have to bide your time or join AAU in the summer league, which I didn't do until my sophomore year in high school. I didn't join. So there's actually a lot of downtime between seasons that you don't really practice a lot.
And so what do people do during that time?
Other sports. You either play, if basketball is a winter sport, so I joined cross country in the fall, or a lot of my same teammates would play football. And after that, you'd play baseball, but I quit baseball very early on because I could never.
Yeah.
So
got a massive strike zone as well.
Yes, a huge strike zone. So it was baseball was not my sport.
No,
not at all. But I think I quit all sports except basketball after my freshman year, and I just focused on that.
Yeah. So sort of going into your sophomore year, that's when it's like, hey, we're going to start taking this basketball a bit more seriously.
Yeah, it really was. I started playing summer basketball, and that's kind of when the dream started of at least wanting to get like a scholarship to play basketball somewhere and to really work at it and to see what we could do.
At the college level.
Yeah. And going back to the point about my friends and I kind of changing the culture of the school that we were going to, we had never made a playoff appearance the entire time we've been JCC as the 2 schools combined. So my senior year, we actually were good enough to, get to state and to qualify for that, but we got all the way to the championship game.
But you didn't quite win the championship?
No, we don't have to talk about that part. But
I mean, sorry to deflate an awesome.
No, you're all good.
But yeah,
absolutely.
That is incredible effort.
Yeah, it was me and those 5 guys that it was just a really cool journey to look back on because we joined basketball in 6th grade without any kind of plan.
And you guys sort of stuck together for all those years together and really built something special.
Yep. It was really amazing to be able to do that and to kind of see that dream get realized.
Yeah, I think I have a bit of a similar story because I grew up in a town back home called Warrandyte, which was population. That's kind of a tough one. I think maybe 3,000 or so. Mm-hmm. That could be completely wrong, but still a pretty small town. And we had a pretty small basketball club as well. But similar story to you, we kind of had a tight knit of guys that sort of joined up sort of the under 14 sort of group. And we sort of played together for It must have been quite a while, maybe 7 or 8 years. And sort of by the end of that time, we actually ended up winning the Division 2 championship in the Youth League Big V.
That's
and
awesome.
we went, it was almost a perfect season. We lost only one game, but we were just annihilating teams. We were just cleaning the floor with them.
There's something to say about building that camaraderie early on and then wanting to stick with those guys too, and to have that kind of, that dream fulfilled is really a fun thing. And I'm glad that you got to experience something like that too.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does the whole college recruiting thing work?
Here,
because you said that you were committed your junior year. So because
did I?
Augie hadn't won the national championship yet.
Yes, I think looking back on it, I think it was toward the end or the summer going into my senior year is when I committed to Augustana. Yeah. It was really interesting to be recruited. I never really kind of expected it growing up. I didn't realize kind of how good I was at the time until I started getting calls from coaches and getting to go.
Dang, you were getting calls?
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, and I had a couple coaches like come to my practice. So coaches that were like recruiting. But it was interesting. I never got an offer, but I was getting looked at by a couple Division 1 schools, and I was really, really wanting to go Division 1. But in the end, I didn't get any Division 1 offers. But I'm super happy that I got to go Division 2, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was Division 2 is still extremely serious, and it is quite a bit of a job also when you get to that point. But any level of basketball to be able to be recruited by and to play after high school is, I think, awesome. And anybody that gets the chance to do it should.
And getting phone calls as well, being a little bit of a big shot.
I don't know if I call it a big shot. It was definitely interesting, though, to go to schools that were recruiting me and having like my number in jerseys and stuff that were laid out, or like recruiting videos, or getting to be kind of chaperoned around the college campuses by coaches.
Getting the special treatment.
Yeah, it's something that I never expected, and it was fun for sure, but very interesting.
So how did the coaches find you? Because I know that for a fact the assistant coaches during our time, they would, especially once our season was finished, they'd be very heavily into actively recruiting. They'd be doing trips here and there. But I mean, you're from a pretty small town, so how do you even get noticed?
Honestly, AAU helped me out so much, and I had, thankfully, some awesome, just a support group of a lot of the older parents and the teams that I'd been a part of. So like my older teammates' parents who were like chaperoning their kids to AAU teams and everything had told me about it, and to tell them, they told me to play summer basketball. And that helped a ton, actually, because you go to so many different higher class tournaments, if that makes sense. You get to play a lot of, say, me being from a small town, there may not be a lot of noise that I make playing lot of.
Hey guys, we running up in the
look at us, a little town of 1,000. Yeah.
I guess that probably would have put you on the map a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, but also you got to think of, I'm from a small town, so the competition wouldn't be as good. So being able to play summer basketball against some players that were very, very good around Minnesota that were from,
so you'd go to Minneapolis to do that?
Yeah, so I'd go to Minneapolis and play. I'd go to Milwaukee was a tournament too. Des Moines in Iowa. We'd go all around the Midwest to the bigger cities and play, and which really helped put my name out there. I remember being so excited that there was some like social media, not like recruiters, but they kind of have like journalistic stuff online, and I would get tweeted about sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, it was really interesting to be able to get like interviewed at that young too for a summer basketball game, or to be talked about on Twitter.
That's so cool.
It's
Such an awesome experience.
Yeah, it is. I guess I hadn't thought about that for a really long time, but it's pretty unique to be able to do that. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. And what exactly does AAU stand for?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because I mean, we just associate it as like, oh, that's sort of like the summer league.
Yeah, and I think that's what everybody associates it with. Is just when you play basketball
American,
in summer.
I don't know what the other A would stand for.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just the summer league.
Yeah, the summer league, we'll call
club basketball.
Yeah, and it's really what it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, my recruiting experience was quite a bit different to that
Yeah, please tell me how
because
that.
I didn't have any like
Right.
coaches reaching out. Because how the hell are they supposed to find me from the US down in Australia?
Right.
Unless I'm, the best player ever from
Right.
Australia.
And I'm intrigued how actually how like college basketball kind of works in Australia. Like, how did you get recruited at all for anybody?
Well, we don't have
It's not
college basketball.
okay. Yeah, there's no like
Again,
league or
it's
anything.
sort of you stay with your clubs, and once you're playing, I mean, there's just sort of natural pathways where the competition just grows bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
So from sort of the statewide competition, which would be the Big V, it expands to, I think it's called NBL 1 now. So that's basically comparable to, say, the G League that you guys have here, but I guess the level doesn't really compare. Like the G League is quite a bit more elite.
Yeah.
But even so, it's sort of, and then that splits Australia up into a few different regions. So I think there's like south, west, maybe east and north or something.
So is it like a semi-pro sort of?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's when it becomes semi-professional. I think a lot of players, I think I've heard in Sydney, some of them don't even really get paid.
Yeah.
But
Would
some of
that-
the players would get paid for sure.
I wonder, would that take away any status for you if you were to
I
play
think
in that? Would it take
I
away
think it
status
would've.
to play?
Yeah. I think
Interesting.
so. And I think that was something else to be wary of too. I probably wasn't sort of, as I was entering college, I was maybe not quite at the stage to be playing in a league like that, but sort of, I would say the standard would be pretty comparable from like our college, out the team that we used to play with, and with like probably one of the best teams in the NBL 1
Mhm.
sort of team in that comp. I think those two skill levels would sort of be pretty comparable. And then from there, I guess we have the NBL, which is our main professional competition.
Right.
Those are sort of like the steps from there. So you start off with your juniors, and then you're playing more of the representative basketball, and then it turns into the Big V, so the statewide competition, the regional competition being the NBL 1, and then the NBL itself.
That is a wildly different experience than it is over here in the States. I
And
kind of
so-
never would have thought about it.
And so even, I mean, kids or teenagers who are probably 18 or so, like they can start getting paid
Wow.
if they're good enough.
Right.
Start getting paid straight away to play, which is completely different here because you're not allowed
Right.
to touch any
No.
sort of money
No.
anything.
Yeah, that completely takes all eligibility away from you to be able to play any sort of college basketball or any college sport at all. Sort of. But now I'm sure things are changing now with, I forget what it's called, but college players can get paid through sponsorships, and now.
Yeah. I think, there's lots of interesting arguments for that because people say, well, like that's sort of, especially when it comes to, say, social media. I mean, like that's their personal brand. These guys are amazing athletes.
Yeah.
So why can't they make money from that? I think it sort of seems reasonable enough.
I think so too. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, the amount of money that these kids are making for college playing sports, I
And
think
the
it makes
amount of
sense
money
to-
that the college can make from the players,
That
but
too.
then the players themselves not actually being able to make the money,
Yeah.
I think is a very fascinating argument.
Yeah, true. Absolutely, it is. Yeah. Then I know that opinion kind of ruffles some feathers for a while too, but I think it's a good decision, to be honest. Especially if a kid ends up getting injured too or something, and they can't play professional after that. It's kind of good to have that sort of contingency plan in
Yeah.
a way to be able to, one, devote your time and all of your effort into the college and still have enough money to kind of live off of. So,
Totally.
especially because there's zero time to have a job if you're a college student and like a college athlete. is what-
athlete,
if
yeah.
you're a student athlete.
Hmm.
That was a very interesting.
Well, I very much
role to
felt
have.
like when I came here, I mean, we just got thrown in and like it's just basically professional basketball
Yeah, it
with
is.
classes sort of thrown in the mix just to
Yeah.
complicate things.
Yeah, it's like you go to lift, you go to practice, and I'll do 4 hours of homework and write a paper after that.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And then
incredible.
somehow be up early in the morning to do it
all
again.
again. Yeah, it was an interesting lifestyle to live for 4 years for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, we'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Back to the recruiting stuff. What were you looking for, Bodey, in a college? Both sort of, I guess, I don't know if you were interested like
Mhm.
at all with the academics, or it was pretty much just, well, I just want to pursue basketball.
Right. I was absolutely interested in academics for sure. In school, I was a part of the the honor society in high school, which means like just having some pretty good grades and then being able to be a part of that. So grades were always important to me. So that was a big part of my school decision was the what kind of classes could I take and what the quality of those classes. But in terms of
Bit of a
basketball,
good student as well then.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried my best. Yeah, I'm not a straight A by any means, but I did as best as I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so for basketball, what were you looking for?
Basketball wise, coaching has always meant a lot to me, and just the fit of the team. And I think that was always the biggest thing of what I was looking for in a basketball team was just making sure that I felt valued as a person and not just somebody that was there to just put up numbers, or that was my only worth was numbers. I wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable around the coaches and the team.
Which seems good in theory, but I think especially seeing it at the college level, it's kind of like, well, if you're not performing, well, we're not going to put you on, and like you might even just get dropped from the team.
It's still a bit of a business in that way, in that sense too. I mean, you're receiving this opportunity, and at any moment, if you're not, kind of up to that standard, you could, be benched or not be a part of the team anymore. So there's a stressor to that too, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's where I find the whole intensity of college sport really just ramps up, because the coaches are getting paid.
Yep.
Most of the players are getting a scholarship to be there too. And so if whatever part of the mix isn't performing, well, like something has to be done and adjusted.
Right. Yeah. No, there's actual kind of
There's
money and
stakes.
lifelines. Yeah, there is. It's it does become a job, and I remember a lot of people I looked up to in high school telling me that too. Not like as a way to scare me or anything, but to warn me about how like, hey, this is it's going to be a job. And coaches here at Augie too had told me, it's a serious thing that you have to take consideration.
Yeah. And so we're at the game last night. Southwest Minnesota State we were playing,
which was a school that I also got recruited by.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because that you said that you knew even during that time a lot of players that went there as well, and they were the ones that had sort of your name on the jerseys and showing you all this stuff, and you're pretty convinced on maybe that's where you wanted to go. Yeah,
it was. We had talked about my summer basketball league AAU team. And that's where we practiced, was the SMSU home court. Every like once or twice a week, I would go in the summer. I'd end up at SMSU practicing, and the SMSU coach would sometimes sit in and watch me play, and give me a couple tips here and there. So he's a very good man. Yeah.
You were telling me good things about him last night.
Yeah. He was interested in me from the jump too. So and my final choices kind of came down to SMSU or Augie, and to be honest, the biggest deciding factor was I thought Augie had more for me academics wise. I just liked the school that way more, and that's kind of what my decision was at the end.
Yeah, and so you were able to visit both campuses?
Yes, I had an official visit for both of them, I believe, or maybe it wasn't official. I forgot how that worked. I took a lot of unofficial visits.
So what is an official visit then? What does that sort of entail?
I think that an official visit means that there's like serious intent about going to that school, and that's something that you kind of bring to the public too also. An unofficial visit is just something that you have like interested in. I visited a lot of different colleges in the conference that we played in. I had a visit to MSU, Mankato. I had a visit to SMSU, and then Augie. I also had a visit at USD here too in South Dakota.
Yeah, down in Vermilion.
Yes, I had an unofficial visit there as well.
Okay. And so you said that academics was sort of the deciding factor for Augie.
And that, and I just kind of felt at home at the campus. I liked being from a small town. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, being from a small town, South Dakota, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota, was kind of the big city to me, and I was always very close when I grew up. I was only an hour or so away. So weekend trips to Sioux Falls were like us going to the big city. So Sioux Falls was kind of, I thought, the best feel, because I got that big city fix that I kind of wanted, slash it's still small enough to feel like a small town.
Yeah.
And Augustana truly is the size of kind of like a glorified high school. If you think about it, there are schools here in Sioux Falls that are as big as Augustana, to be honest. So, but that's kind of why I chose Augie, was academics, and I felt really at home at the campus.
I think it is kind of funny and just shows a different in perspective that you would even somewhat consider this a big town, because for me, I'm just like, there's nothing here. Sioux Falls is tiny, and
now that I've lived here for so long too, I understand there is not a ton here either. I mean, it's a city with a small town feel, and that's what I was used to.
Which I think is what kind of makes it nice as well.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
And so, well, let's talk about the academics then.
Sure.
Did you have something in mind that you wanted to study as you were going into Augie?
I remember taking my official visit, and it was just Coach B and I in the practice gym just talking, and he was talking to me about stuff that I wanted to pursue academically. And at the time, thinking I was extremely smart and knowing a lot more than I did, I was like, oh yeah, I want to take up philosophy maybe. I want to see if I can do some of that. No. My first year at college, I took, I forget the course it was called, FYS.
Yeah.
And it was
first year seminar.
Yeah, first year seminar, and mine dealt heavily, I think, on purpose, because I think coaches kind of helped me get into that class. It was heavily based around philosophy stuff, and I was like, this is too much thinking. I think a lot in my own brain, too much already, so I don't really need any more. So I kind of switched that, and I went into business administration. I think was my first official major declaring. And then I took a couple business classes and also realized that I don't care to learn about the economy and how it works, and I'm not very good with numbers.
Yeah. Tricky combo then.
Yes. So that didn't quite pan out for me either. But I was talking to a good friend of mine that I had grown up with. Her name's Courtney Place, and she played volleyball here at Augustana for a few years. And she had
such a great volleyball player.
Yes, phenomenal volleyball player. Yes, actually, she grew up in a town very close to me, even smaller than me.
Really?
Yes. So she grew up in Heron
There's
Lake, Okabena.
something going on there. Just
I know, something in the water.
The pool of talent.
Yeah,
coming from that place.
But yeah, no. Courtney Place, who is a phenomenal volleyball player, grew up 10, 15 minutes away from me. So shout out Courtney. Haven't seen her in a while. But I remember talking with her in the lunchroom at Augie one day and talking to her about the major that she decided to choose. And she was doing a new major at Augie, which was media studies. And the more that I heard her talk about it, the more that I wanted to go into it, which was, and ended up being a perfect fit. So
yeah.
I ended up changing to doing media studies, and I double majored with that and communications.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And what does media studies actually entail?
With my degrees of media studies and communications, is basically the long way around for a marketing degree, essentially, but with more of an emphasis, I think, on sort of the creativity / aesthetics aspect of it, I would say. So I learned a lot more about writing and effective communications rather than being able to put it into a business perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's focused more on the content itself and creative messaging, not so much the how we can use this to get numbers and draw people in.
Exactly. Yeah. So
which sounds more interesting to me, because I remember taking some of the marketing classes, and at the time they just sort of went over my head. I was like,
same.
Doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. I had the exact same experience. But I loved the major because there was a lot of assignments were watching movies and then talking about them. So
yeah. I feel like
I really
remember
enjoyed it.
We'd rock up to the practice gym and we'd just be talking about each other's days. Like, oh yeah, we just watched some movie or whatever. I'm like, what is this major this guy's taking? It sounds so
It's very serious and hard, I swear. But I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I got that experience. And to be honest, I don't think I would have gotten it in any other school, to be honest. I'm not sure if any other school offered a major like media studies. So that's, again, why I'm glad I ended up at Augie, to be able to kind of fall into that on accident.
Yeah.
So,
and now you're working, doing some social media work for, what's it called? Feeding
South Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love it. It's awesome to be able to work. I never expected myself to end up in the nonprofit area of side of work, but it kind of it helps my soul a little bit to know that I've done sort of a sales job before as my first job, and I really just did not like it. It didn't feel good.
Don't like sales?
It just didn't feel right. I didn't.
Well, I think you have to be selling a right product and
That
genuinely
too.
trying to help people.
And I
But I
just
guess
did
if
not.
you're just pushing crap, well,
Yeah,
it's a
no,
bit
I did
difficult.
not really believe in the product that I was pushing. So I ended up working for another nonprofit called South Dakota Voices for Peace, and then kind of stepped my foot into doing content creation and some social media management stuff and graphic design work. And then from there, which was a part-time job, I ended up at Feeding South Dakota. So now full-time I do social media managing and content writing and stuff like that.
And that's the sort of thing that you like?
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm able to use my degree in too. So very thankful to have kind of all of that fall into place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to actually find something that you enjoyed in a major that you sort of committed to, and now you're actually working in the field using the skills that you learnt while you're here
definitely
as well.
a little nervous going through school, being like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, but I like what I'm studying, to end up actually kind of figuring out. Because I remember graduating into the pandemic and nobody was hiring really for anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do and what I could get into, because I didn't have a very good internship in college, because that got cut short because of COVID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, mine did too. That's
Yeah,
a
it
whole
did.
other story.
yeah,
I was with
but-
do I bring it up? I guess so. Oh, what was it
Do
called? Dakota Entertainment was
Yeah.
the internship that I had, and it only lasted for probably like a month or something, because then spring break and then the whole campus shut down because of the pandemic. But it was not a great experience at all, because I don't know. Well, I don't really know how, like, the detail I want to get into, but just not a fun experience. I just felt like the company, the people who ran it, I didn't necessarily get along with them. I didn't really agree with their sort of ethics, ways of working.
I've had the experience as well.
And it was just at their house too, and I was just doing social media stuff, and like honestly, I was just providing literally zero value. So I was like, well, why the hell am I wasting my time doing this? But it was an experience.
Yeah, and to a point that has its own value too, because now you know what you didn't like about it, and you can find the differences about what you don't like about it and find something that you do.
Yeah.
So you kind of need those experiences too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And then, well, similar to you, after graduating, because we graduated the same year, 2020, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah, I graduated in 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I just went back home to Australia, just couldn't find a job because there was nothing going. That's when I just started building my video skills, and then that sort of transitioned to a decision to be like, hey, I'm doing a lot of this every single day. I really love it, so why not just make it a career?
Yeah, very happy that you got to do that. It's always been a dream of mine too, to do something like this. So to see somebody so close to me be able to do something like that is really, one, cool, and I'm super proud and happy for you. But also that motivates me a little bit to maybe try something someday too.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
And it's great that we can actually sit down and I can kind of share the skills that I've learned.
Yeah.
And we can have a meaningful conversation using all the visuals that I've gotten, as well as like all the other know-how that I've learned as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just good to have a contact. Yeah. I know a guy now.
Yeah. And especially you doing the content creation as well.
Yeah.
Like I've very, very much gone down that path. And I think creating content can be so meaningful and purposeful, especially if you're doing it for nonprofits. I think that's very empowering.
It helps a lot to know that the work that I do can actually impact somebody else's life. Maybe not directly, because I'm not usually the one actually providing the service for the people that we do things for, but in a way, the work that I do does help somebody, because communication is very important, and especially my line of work with Feeding South Dakota, I get to let people know where the food that they need is, and that we have it. So yeah,
Amazing work.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Thank you.
So before we go back to the basketball stuff, was there anything else about your college experience at Augie that maybe you just wanted to share? Maybe there was some super fun moments, or maybe some difficult times?
I think we should definitely share the story about how you and I, freshman year, thought we were both in an extreme amount of trouble with the basketball coaches.
Oh my God. This is a little bit traumatizing.
It was a little bit, for sure. Our coaches are very intense people, and they are people who really like to stick to a schedule and a routine. And we unfortunately, only Zach and I broke that routine one time.
Because we were on the road
Yes.
traveling for a game somewhere.
Yes.
Can't remember
I can't
where it
remember
was.
what team we were playing or where we were at either. But we had just finished a game. And how our league works is that we play Friday, we go on a bus again that Friday night, and we bus to another place. So we get to a hotel. It's already, it's so late, I would assume. It's probably about like 10 o'clock by the time we get there. We've just eaten. We got off the
Yeah.
bus. We're checking into our hotel. And our coaches are giving us our room keys and talking about how we're going to have film at 9. And I think you and I were both like, yeah, it's like 10:30. Let's go to bed. We're going to have film at 9 a.m. in the morning. I think we were
Yeah.
both on the same page with that.
That seemed pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, it's me too. It made sense that we would get up, have breakfast, watch film, go to the game the next day. Probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock, we get a knock on our door. And that's pretty routine for all of us because the graduate assistants would always have to go around, knock on doors, make sure that we're in there to go to bed at night. So I opened the door, and I believe it was Kirsch, if you remember our graduate assistant, our freshman year.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah,
I think
him.
it was Kirsch.
Yeah.
Yes, and our graduate assistants are usually very relaxed.
I mean, I don't want to say that the coaches are against us, but I feel like the graduate assistant's probably more on like the players' side,
Right.
looking out for the players.
A graduate assistant is somebody who has graduated recently from college, and they're looking to get into coaching.
Yeah.
So they're more our age already, and they don't have as serious of a role on the team in terms of coaching wise. So I open the door nonchalantly. I'm like, "What's up, Kirsch? What's going on?" And he's got the most dreadful look on his face that I've ever seen.
And then the whole air in the room just completely
Everything
changed.
got
It was
quiet.
all like sucked out.
And he's like, "Where the hell were you guys?" I'm like, what do you mean? What happened?
Like, we're just chilling here watching TV. What do you
Yes.
mean?
We were doing what we were supposed to do. I don't understand. Like, you guys missed film. Do you understand how awful that is?
What do you mean miss film? It's at 9
It's at
a.m. in the
9.
morning.
We didn't miss it. What are you talking about? 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Idiots. What are you doing? So you and I had the absolute life drained out of us at that point, because if anybody knows anything about our coaches, film is extremely serious, and it's not something that you miss or even especially yawn at either. So it's
Yeah, we had our own strict rules with film. You had to put your phones in the basket, and they were put outside, which
Yes.
that seems so over the top. But
phones off. If you had a phone that could take a battery out, do that. Then
Yeah.
we all put all the
smash
phones.
the screen if you have to, but don't let that sucker ring.
Do not let that thing ring. And then all of those phones go into a backpack, and they are tossed out of whatever we're in the locker room. We toss out of the locker room. We have just a bag in a hallway, or wherever we're at. We're just it's gone and out of sight. All phones are out.
And when we're inside, there's no talking,
No
no
yawning.
yawning. Eyes just fixated at the screen or on
Yep.
the coach.
Because film is gold, literal gold in the sports community, and as our coaches would put it, they're quite literally the answers to the test. So it was dumb what we did.
Yeah, I think in hindsight we were just like, man, like it just it's so
Well, I think
stupid.
we both kind of calmed ourselves down in that moment. Well, like, because we were both like, yeah, 9 a.m., right? Why would we? It's 10:30. We have a game tomorrow.
Yeah.
As soon as we go
But
to bed, the
we
better.
still felt so bad and so awful. We're like, oh, what's going to happen to us? We're going to be running at training. the
Yes,
next
not
day.
only, oh my gosh, the next day was the absolute worst for me. I'm not sure how it was for you, and keep in mind, you were new to the team, and we had brought you up from
Junior varsity.
Yes, from our JV team. I was a redshirt. I wasn't going to play regardless. And I was still so terrified of what I had just done. And I remember the next day, I was so scared and sick to my stomach. And I think the coaches realized that, and they were like, all right, I think he's punished himself enough. Because at one point, one of the
I
coaches
feel like
were
they're
like,
probably just watching us squirm.
I'm sure I was white as a ghost. There's no chance I was very close to throwing up the entire day. And we had a game that day, and it was so serious to have missed that film, and it was not a fun time to be me that day.
No, I was crapping myself too. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I guess nothing actually ended up coming of it. It was just
No,
sort of like,
literally
well,
nothing happened. That's what I mean.
It
Like,
was an honest mistake, and well, I mean, it wasn't super important that we were there anyway because
no,
I
we
was
weren't
right
gonna
on the
play.
bench, and well, you were red
Yeah.
shirt, so you weren't going to get on no matter what.
No, but in that moment though, yeah, I think the coaches saw that we had punished ourselves enough in that moment. So
Yeah,
I think they
we
took it
learned
easy.
our lesson.
For sure, for every single road trip and every game, every year after that, everybody made sure that it was AM or PM was specified, and then all eyes went to me.
Yeah, everyone was just kind of joking about it, and all our teammates were like,
Yeah.
"Guys, where were you last night? What happened?" And we
Yeah.
just said, "Well, we
Didn't help that they
messed up."
thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We very much felt sort of like outsiders at that point.
Mhm.
But did you want to talk a little bit more about what basketball at Augie was like?
Yeah, sure. So we can go into how I had a lot of expectations for myself leading up to coming to college because we had talked about how I got recruited pretty heavily. I was a pretty good high school player.
Who actually, specifically, who was it that recruited you?
Oh, from Augie?
Yeah.
All the coaches. CA. I had a lot of conversations with Coach B too.
Oh, right.
So yeah, CAs are one of our assistant coaches, Colin Author. So
Yeah.
So they were in conversations with me a lot. But yeah, I was recruited heavily going into that year, and was a pretty decent high school player. I think I was actually ranked in the state at one point. I think it was
Were you really?
Yeah, I think it was like 13th or something. I don't quote me on that. I had a friend tell
Hey,
me
you can
once
say
that I was
I
ranked, and I
number
was like,
one in the
"What?"
state, number one in the nation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was a pretty decent high school player, and I had a lot of expectations going into college basketball, and a lot of pressure going in, seeing that Augie had just won the national championship for Division II my year going in, and not only that, but some of the best players who have ever played at Augie were going out. So I had big shoes to fill.
Yeah, they had, who was on their team? That was Daniel Jansen,
Mhm.
Casey Schilling.
Casey, Al Richter.
That's it, yeah.
Yes.
Those three, I mean, there was other pieces, but those three very much were
If there's a big
part,
three in college basketball, they were
huge
they
part
were
of
it,
the
yeah.
reason why they won the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Along,
it's
yeah.
almost a shame that we weren't.
And Jordan Spencer. We
part
can't
of
forget
that.
about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute master of the
Yes.
game.
Yes, absolutely.
I loved playing with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like I said, big shoes to fill, and a lot of
They're very nervous
pressure.
coming in. Did you have any?
Nervous is an understatement.
Yeah, we were talking all about this last night.
Mm-hmm.
And we both had very similar experiences where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to really perform, and maybe we didn't necessarily see the output of that.
Yes.
And that can be very frustrating as a player.
Right. And I had put so much of time and effort into basketball in high school, and I was from a small town, so I was talked about pretty highly. So to kind of start over from square one again was a very interesting time. To be highly recruited and then getting to college and being one of the worst players on the team. So it's eye-opening and shocking to definitely I remember one of my first runs in the summer before I got to campus. We were just playing pickup games, and I was playing with Jordan Spencer and a lot of guys that were here over the summer. And I remember learning just a little bit about our system and trying to run that, and how fours would always take the ball out, fives never would. Fives or centers would always sprint down to the court.
Yeah, not
And
jog, sprint, straight line,
sprint.
down the middle,
Yes.
basket to basket.
Don't worry about anything else. Get your butt under the basket. And in my high school, I was always the one taking the ball out after a made basket because I loved pushing the tempo, and I loved that was one of my things is I loved passing up court as fast as I could. So it was very tough for me to not take that basketball out after
Because
a
I
made
guess
basket.
you were playing the five.
Yes, because I was always playing the five, and fives in Augustana's system never take the ball out. And I was always trying to do that, and Jordan Spencer was not very pleased with me that day.
No.
And I remember getting kind of chewed out about it a lot. And I was like, this is my first pickup game. I'm already messing up so much. So it was an eye-opening experience to do that. I remember Dan Jansen played in that game, almost dunked on him, but I missed it.
Dang.
Yes.
Yeah, he'd be like one of the greatest players to ever play at Augie,
If not the
like the guy.
Yeah. So it was, not only was I replacing him and stepping into his position, and then playing against him and then kind of
Almost dunking on him.
getting rocked then after that miss and him always scoring on me.
Yeah,
but
he's such a big unit, such a talented player.
Yes, extremely talented. As I remember watching the game that they had played against Iowa too, a Division I school. They had an exhibition game against Iowa, and they had won, I think, in a last-second shot by Dan Jansen.
Which I think was that was the start of that season. I think I remember watching the documentary, so I sort of like have paved it like in my own head and watching that. But because that's a huge deal, Iowa State, big-time college.
Different. I don't think it's Iowa State. I think Iowa State is the Cyclones, and I think it's a big difference.
Okay.
For Iowans.
Well, I'm just building up the story, but it was a big deal that Augie beat them, even if it was just an exhibition game. But I think that sort of set the tone for the season. Hey, we got a great team here.
Mm-hmm. And I remember watching that game and them winning, and I was like, what am I getting myself into? What have I done?
Well, because I remember when I arrived at Augie, I was just recruited into the junior varsity team, and I remember walking into the practice gym. I think after meeting Coach Hederman in the hallway, he sort of that was a really cool experience because I remember I had a little book and I was showing him like my goals while I'm here and all this stuff because I just wanted to show like, hey, I'm really serious about this. Because I didn't really know anyone. I was on just email through who was the assistant coach at that time? It was a grad assistant. I'd have to look it up because I can't remember. But that was sort of the only contact I had. So it was a completely new environment for me. And I remember walking to the practice gym and you guys were scrimmaging. I'm just looking at the height of all these guys, and just like how big everyone is and how quick the game was being played as well. And I thought, shit, well, this is what I signed up for, but I don't know how the hell I'm going to be able to make my way into a team like this.
Right. But you did. Yeah. Yes, you did. Don't count yourself out. I'm extremely impressed with how hard, you worked and how serious you took it. I remember, the competition was so fierce coming in and knowing that so many of the guys like Dan Jansen were going out and there was a lot of spots to fill. So every practice, every scrimmage, every game that we played was very intense. And to see somebody come up from the JV team too, I remember being like, who's this kid? What's he doing?
I was just trying to prove myself so hard.
And I was like, why is he playing so hard?
I'd take everything super seriously. And I think looking back, would I have taken it as seriously? I think I would have maybe taken a different approach. And we even discussed this a little bit while we were watching the game last night together. I feel like we've both grown up since we've finished basketball, and we would maybe tackle it a little bit different, take it a little bit less seriously. Like, still keep the same intensity, but just know, well, hey, there's only so much you can do. You can't control if the ball goes in or not. Maybe technically you can, but,
to a point.
Things happen, and like it's all kind of part of the process. You don't have to get results right that second.
Right.
It just takes time.
In the moment and in that culture and in those years of our lives, we put such an enormous amount of pressure on ourselves to be great and to want that success immediately that I think for both of us, I think it is hindered us.
That real sort of instant gratification, like we need to get it now.
Yeah.
I remember I've reflected on this quite a lot, but I kind of think if I had have just kept playing, like even at my age now, well, like I would probably be able to play professional basketball. I didn't actually need to peak at college.
Right,
if I had have just kept playing and maybe still not even get into any sort of rotation with still little playing time, I still think even with that experience, I could have just kept playing and would still be able to play professionally somewhere.
Me too. I mean, I thankfully have professional height, so I kind of have a built-in advantage in that way. So I could have probably pursued professional as well, but I didn't, get a whole lot of playing time at Augie, and I didn't have really the mental capacity at that point, to be honest. Could I have played professional basketball? Maybe, probably even. But especially after my 4 years at Augie, I think it really needed a break. And to be honest, I'm glad I did. So I love basketball still, and I play it a lot again, more and more often now. I'm really kind of falling in love with the game again. But having such a serious relationship with the sport after having so much fun with it in high school, and then have it become that job was pretty heavy on me, to be honest.
So how did you survive the 4 years? Because, well, I ended up finishing after my
Yeah.
sophomore year because I actually did get sick, and I later found out it was sort of food intolerances that was causing that. So that's just why I gradually was just feeling more and more sort of worn down,
Right.
just a little bit more lethargic, and it was just hard for me. Sometimes I'd feel sick where I couldn't even really eat properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of what sort of drew into my basketball career. And I remember coming back junior year, and I'd stopped eating for about a good month at that point. Like, not completely, but like very little, just because I was really, really sick. I remember walking into Coach B's office, and I was so nervous and just, well, I guess nervous probably isn't the right word, but I was just almost disappointed in myself because I didn't want to let like the team down. And my dream from a young age was just to like get to college basketball and to pursue professional basketball too.
Right.
So to be able to sit down in his office and tell him, this is it, like I'm done, was very hard for me to actually
I'm sure it was
kind of comprehend and process.
I'm sure it was hard to actually voice it.
Yeah.
And to actually,
because I just didn't want to believe it. And I think it took me months afterwards to actually come to terms with it, if not probably years, to be honest.
yeah, no, and I think I'm still working through it too. It's sort of a letdown of myself to not have, a lot of playing time in college, and but I think trying to get back to your original question again was how I think I kind of dealt with the stressors of college. Is that what it was?
I don't think I asked that, but sure.
Sort of, in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was tough. I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't really handle it very well. Looking back on it and knowing what I know now, I would say I was not clinically, perhaps. I don't take it lightly, but I was kind of depressed. Honestly, it was a hard thing to not live up to my own expectations, not live up to the expectations that the coaches had of me, because a lot of my coaches and a lot of the players that were above me going in had a lot of expectations for me. A lot of the players on that championship team saw something in myself that I didn't, and to not fully realize that was hard on me. And also, I didn't really handle not playing well while I was still in college, and that a lot of those negative feelings ended up kind of affecting my body too a bit. I've always been a picky eater, unfortunately, and a big thing for me in college was to gain weight, and I never could. And then um, just having those kind of depressed feelings suppressed my appetite a lot too. So it was difficult. I would say I did not handle the stressors of playing collegiate basketball and trying to juggle having a social life and also keeping up with my academics too was also a bit of a struggle. There was just a lot of stress involved, and I didn't handle it very well. Looking back on it, and if anybody feels the same way that I do, look for help for sure is what I would say. I remember my senior year, I finally went up to Jason Rennie, our physical trainer at the time, and because
another intense dude,
but also a very kind man.
Yeah, I love Jason
as well. Yes, love Jason Rennie.
He was a great help, and just because he'd spend so much time with us, just
Yes.
doing all the athletic training. If someone gets scratched at practice, he's there with a Band-Aid to cover it up.
And he understood the mental part of it too. So that's why I kind of went to him first and brought the idea of going to some free mental health services too. I remember my senior year, and those helped a ton. But I think if anybody would ever go through the same thing that I did, I would say, find some help for sure, whether it be like counseling or anything like that, or just more friends too. Because I remember I secluded myself a bit too, with just being around basketball and being around basketball players at all times.
And that's the hard thing too, is when you're not performing, you almost cling to it more because just have to keep pushing more and more and more to actually get it to work. But I think it's that trying that extra hard just sort of unravels you.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you went about it in a very good way, though. One thing that I do regret about college is not branching out and finding more people to hang out with than just the basketball guys. I mean, I love the basketball guys. They're my teammates. They're, brothers and everything. But it's extremely important, I think, for mental health, especially if you're playing collegiate sports, to have friends and to be in other things that aren't basketball to kind of take yourself away from it.
Yeah, because I had my international group that, because even the basketball guys, you guys would even go, like at the commons, you'd be eating together, but I'd just still go and sit with some of my
I wish I did
international
that.
friends.
I remember walking into the commons the first day, kind of ready to mingle and to meet new people, and then realizing that, basketball has its own table. And we sit there every day with the same guys every day.
Yeah.
It was an interesting way to do things, for sure, to realize that that's how a lot of the sports get very cliquey.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very important that you've shared sort of those feelings that you felt, and even sort of the depressive state that you were in, because it was very high pressure, intense thing to be in. And I think ultimately, sure, there's lots of that external pressure, but honestly, the internal pressures that we put on ourselves, I think, can be the most destructive.
Yeah, it is.
I think, to be honest, I kind of blame the food here in the US for causing like my stomach problems, but I think it's very real that it was probably stress and the pressure I was putting on myself to perform at basketball too, and getting worried because I'd been progressing quite through like my freshman year. I was progressing very nicely. And I remember during that, during the summertime as we were scrimmaging, I was starting to mark up John a little bit and, started to actually being able to defend him and make some plays. And I thought, hey, like I'm doing all right here. But coming back my sophomore year, for whatever reason, it just didn't sort of keep that momentum going forward. And that's when I think things started to panic a little bit. Like, hey, we're not quite on the plan that we want.
Right.
And
yeah.
It just sort of fell apart from there. And that's where I think all the sickness sort of came from. And I still have all those food intolerances now. And that's
crazy to think that. Yeah.
Kind of why, like, there's a few reasons why I wouldn't go back to basketball now. One is sort of the food thing. It is still hard to have a strict enough diet where I'm like keeping my body in check.
To be a professional athlete too and have a dietary restriction can't be easy.
Yeah, and I still have a very fast metabolism like yourself, so it's hard to put on weight. And even just like the time commitment now, I just, with all the video stuff, I find that so much more meaningful and a great way to spend my time, because I think it can really make a true impact in this world. Whereas like me playing professional basketball, well, it doesn't really do it for me anymore.
You find, growing up is kind of finding out and realizing that you can put your energy and efforts towards other things that you can find meaning in. And for you, it's, your podcast and all of the social media work you do. And for me, it's, I didn't expect it, but like working in the nonprofit world has really brought me a lot of satisfaction, some meaning back into my life. Because I remember being done with basketball and being super excited to be a regular student for a little while and to see how that would go. That got cut short because of COVID, unfortunately. But
because that was sort of your senior year when you finished off in the spring. You're like, I can do a couple of months.
Yeah, I can be a regular student for like a couple, 3 months or whatever.
And I would say, because I spent the last 2 years not being an athlete.
Yeah.
Totally different experience.
I'm sure.
Honestly.
Yeah. No, being a student athlete is a completely different, I think, from my point of view, than experience than being just a regular student.
Because it was so strange coming back here my junior year and not playing, because I had like so much free time, because I'd be pouring at least 8 hours a day over in the Elman Center just training, whether it's weights, just like personal training, just putting up more shots, ball handling, and then there was even times I was doing junior varsity practice and varsity practice too, back to back.
Yep. And we were talking about that last night a little bit, and it's kudos to you, man. I don't know how you managed to do that.
The freshman year especially, like I just loved all of it. I don't think I just felt invincible and just wanted to do more and more and more and just really just get amongst it. But we're also talking last night about all that effort that you put in. I mean, there was still guys that would put in half the effort and they were just more talented.
Yeah,
and they would still get all the playing time, score all the points, and be the hero.
Sometimes that's just how it works. You can't, there's always the option to transfer, and not to say that I was actively looking for it, but if I wanted to have, because it became obvious junior, senior year that I just wasn't a fit in the system. So obviously I could have transferred out and looked for a better system to be a part of, or
Where you can just get more
basketball
playing
wise.
time.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe something that I would just enjoy more basketball wise. But I enjoyed Augustana so much academically. Really, it was I loved all my professors so much, and my advisor, John Bart, fantastic people, and a testament to the education here. It was really different, I think, education here compared to state schools, because you'll get giant lecture halls and you just kind of a number or a person in a seat. But here at Augie, you get like 15 to 20 kids a class, and you get that real face-to-face interaction with professors.
Yeah, on a real personal
Yeah.
level and friendship level too.
Yes, absolutely. I know I could reach out to any of my professors today, and they would still help me out in any way that they could. And it was really interesting to have an education collegiately in that way. So, and was probably the biggest reasons why I didn't look to branch out for other basketball opportunities. Was because I loved it here at Augie educationally so much.
So much more than just the basketball.
Yeah, it's you find out that life is a little bit more than just ball isn't life, as it turns out.
Despite what the slogan would say.
Yeah, despite what other people say, ball might not be life. But eventually you learn that there's a lot more things that you can learn about, and there's a lot more to life than just stressing yourself out over something. And there's a lot more joys you can find.
Very wise of you.
Thank you. I hope it sounded cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving it, at least.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. At least I can entertain you.
So, well, Bodey, we've talked a lot about sort of the negatives and the hard parts of being like a student athlete and also just playing basketball here at Augie. But what was the highlight for you?
Oh, the highlight. Oh, I've got one basketball-wise, for sure. My freshman year, because we had won the national championship the year prior, the Division II national championship team gets invited to play Duke University.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So as a freshman, was a redshirt, but it was an exhibition game, so I could play in that one. We went to North Carolina, and we were able to be on the Duke campus.
Oh my God.
And play in Cameron Indoor. So it was crazy. And Cameron Crazies is what they called, or
because it's a tin shed, isn't it? And it just gets
Sorta.
super loud.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was a packed game, a packed crowd for Division II, playing one of, if not the best Division I basketball team at the time. We got smacked by 50. I played 2 minutes at the end of the game. I got a single rebound, so I got that to my name.
Stat.
Yeah, I got a stat against Duke. But at the time, we were playing against people like Grayson Allen, I think, was on the team. He didn't play, but Jason Tatum was on the team.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Couple of NBA stars right there.
Yeah, it's
And Coach K was the coach?
Coach K was still coaching.
Yeah.
I remember he had said some really cool, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he had shook Jordan Spencer's hand and was really impressed by the way Jordan Spencer had played. He was a lot taller than I expected in person, to be completely honest. He looked a lot different than I would have expected.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like such an awesome experience. And you know what? I actually watched that game.
You did?
I was over in Solberg with some of
Yeah.
my friends. We're just in the lounge area and just sort of watched it. And I was like, dang, how am I missing out on this? Like, I wanted to be there so bad.
It was amazing. And if I could touch one more thing about the Cameron Crazies, we had got there, the game had started, and we had started kind of listening and hearing the crowd, and they started saying some stuff, and we were like, how do they know that? And then we were looking at the crowd, and they were passing around packets, stapled sheets of paper with things about every player to trash talk us about.
Really?
Yes, they were just passing that around in the crowd. I was like, this is insane. You were just playing a Division II team. You smacked them by 50 already. And these people that are so crazy at Cameron Indoor were passing around packets to trash talk us.
What were you hearing? Do you remember?
Some stuff about one of the players' wives. Some stuff like that.
Serious
It was
stuff.
some serious stuff, and they take it very seriously. I mean, it's a home court advantage, especially at Duke, is a serious thing. So it was weird to experience
So
that.
they don't let up even for the national championship of the Div 2 coming up.
No, they did not let up on us at all.
What
So,
a crazy experience.
yeah, it was phenomenal to be there.
And I think I remember talking to Sorg's dad
Mhm.
after in the practice gym. We were shooting there one night, and I just asked him about the experience. He said, "Man, those guys were so tall.
They're huge.
They're just so big, and
Yeah.
the extra length that they had apparently just made it impossible to even just throw a simple pass."
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm 6'9", 6'10" with shoes on, and I'm a lengthy guy myself. But going in, I was about 6'9", only I wasn't even 200 pounds yet. I was like 195, playing against guys my height that were like 250.
Yeah.
Just getting thrown around. That's completely different level that you don't expect until you're face to face with it.
Just such a huge jump. And I remember like the intensity. I remember being just in the practice gym a couple of days ago. I went to see Coach B, say hi again. But I remember being in that atmosphere in the practice gym, and I really missed that feeling of just that intensity of everyone just working like extremely hard, sort of kind of out for one another, but also just working together.
Yeah.
To really just improve the team and just really represent Augustana. I just really love that feeling, and it was so great to reflect on that again.
Right. Yeah. It was really.
Gym.
I was at another game at the Pentagon today. I was watching Oregon and Syracuse play, and I remember sitting there watching the intros, and I was like, man, I miss getting my name called to run through that tunnel and to get introduced.
It's all that stuff I just wanted, from the college experience too. I wanted to be the guy that would take the last shot and be the hero of the team to shoot the 30 points and just clean up.
Tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
To not be that.
And it is really interesting sitting now being like, well, that was basketball, and that was a big part of our life for so long and has sort of come and gone. We can still play pickup games and everything, but in terms of playing professionally and other aspirations, well, that's sort of it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, like we had touched on a bit, I think we find other meaningful uses for our time, So.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just sort of all part of the experience, and we don't really know until we actually experience it for ourselves. So I think I couldn't have asked for a better college basketball experience. I think it was honestly the greatest thing ever. Even though it wasn't the picture perfect fairy tale ending that I would have liked, but I think so much about it just sort of helped me grow as a person.
Definitely. Yeah. You learn how to overcome adversity. You learn how to deal with failure too. Especially with thinking back on kind of the failures that we have within ourselves that we kind of admit at that point in time. You learn to just kind of accept it and learn that that's not, who you are always, and that there's so many more things that you can provide.
I think that's a big one too, is I kind of realized, well, if there are all these guys that are just naturally talented and I'm putting in all this work and I still can't be anywhere close to that, well, maybe this ultimately isn't for me.
Right. No
matter how bad that I want it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's a tough thing to think about, but eventually you get through it and you understand that it's not the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah. And I think, since you shared a highlight, I would like to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot. I was going to ask you that. I want to know some of your highlights then of either basketball or school.
Well, I think for basketball, I think definitely my highlight would be we had a game in the Elman Center. It was probably sort of this time of year, must have been over the Christmas break. Probably one of the first games back because we play a few of the NAIA schools.
Yep, NAIA, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're playing in the Elman Center, so on campus, get a few students to the game. And I think we were probably up by about 40 points or so.
Yeah.
So we actually got a bit of a run. And you were the one that actually set me the screen, I think. No, you set Nolan a screen up the top, I believe.
Yeah, probably.
Nolan came around and I lifted up, and then Nolan kicked me the ball as you rolled to the basket.
Yep.
And so you've created the space for me. And then I just catch it on the wing, and I already knew that I was just going to put the thing up. My defender was still pretty close to me, but I didn't care. I just let it fly.
Yeah.
And then it dropped straight through the bucket.
great feeling, isn't it?
And I was just like, this is it. I've
I've
scored
achieved.
my first points
Yeah.
in college basketball in like playing with the varsity team. And so I remember just running back. I played it all cool, like, oh yeah, you know, like that happens all the time.
But on the inside, you're like, yes.
Yeah, inside I was like,
Yes.
I'm the king. You can't stop me.
Did it.
Hand down, man down. And I was like, internally I was doing all this stuff, but yeah, I just shrugged off and played it cool. But I think again, I kind of looking back, I think it would have been great if I did express myself more. Like maybe just, even though coaches probably wouldn't be too happy, but for me it was like that's like the pinnacle of my basketball career, just about.
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
that's like
yeah.
the greatest moment ever. It's like, I mean, it would have been cool if I was, you know, jumping up and down and going a bit crazy, because that's how much it meant to me.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, unfortunately you didn't. But like it, yeah, no. Now that you mentioned it, I do kind of remember the play, and it was very exciting for you. And
There's footage of it too. Don
You have it?
Granoga, who's the director of the IPO, or I can't remember his specific role now, but he used to be the director. He got a clip of it on his phone.
Sweet. That's awesome.
So
I'm so glad you have that.
That one little memory of like, yeah, this is like all the hard work paid off, at least for that, if nothing else. And I think, honestly, totally worth it to get me here at an awesome college in the US, meeting awesome people like yourself and sharing that experience of maybe riding the bench and like just having to deal with the struggles. But I think it's just honestly just all worth it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it. And I think I kind of needed catching up with you. I think yesterday was really eye-opening to kind of have that and share the same experiences that we had.
100%.
That.
Yeah.
So
that's very special.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It's great. Thank you for inviting me on to the podcast and on to, going to the game last night. It was awesome.
No worries at all. So Bodey, favorite question.
Yeah.
If you could give your, how about let's split it up into two.
Sure, go for it.
Basketball experience at Augie, what letter grade would you give it?
B-, to be honest.
That's not too bad.
No. I mean, it's well above passing. Enough, you know. It opened so many doors for me, and it gave me so many travel experiences. Like, how many people get to say that they played against Duke? You know, it was very special to be able to play in any sort of collegiate environment at all. So I thank, you know, Augie and the coaches very much for giving me that that opportunity to play at Augie. But I didn't handle some stressors very well, and I didn't balance, you know, my social life and my academics as well as I could have. So,
do you think maybe if you had to fix that, it might have been brought up quite a bit? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless, if you had have seen more minutes, do you think that would have helped?
If I saw more minutes, probably not. No, it probably wouldn't have helped either. To be honest, I think my mindset needed to change, is what it was. I think.
So I'm saying regardless of if you actually got more minutes, if you had to just fixed your mindset,
yes,
do you think that would have really boosted the score?
Absolutely. If I would have just been like, you know what, how about we just sit back and enjoy it and try to do as best as I can, and if I can't keep up, or if I'm a bench player, then I should just accept it. So I put a ton of pressure on myself where it probably wasn't needed. And that's probably what brought my score down for that a lot. It was just the amount of stress that I had put on my own self.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And then let's do an overall one. So we've got the basketball, and then overall college experience, basketball, academics, social life, all of that combined.
A.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have met some of the greatest people that I hold near and dear at Augie that I hope will be, you know, in my life for the rest of my life. And I thank my college experience for those people. And that's something that I cherish deeply. So, and I very much so cherish the opportunity to kind of forge a new major also, with media studies being so brand new when I was back in school. So to be kind of a part of that and to help shape how that major kind of does things, and to be the guinea pig for it. And having that major really kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to do too with the rest of my life. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And so, Bodey, is there any advice that you could give to a student athlete who's coming through the high school system, who's looking to get recruited to college?
Sure.
Go through 4 years, giving it their all to really
Right.
put all their effort in and try and pursue excellence in basketball, what sort of advice would you give to someone?
I would say for basketball wise, make sure you have the correct fit. Whether that be, because I remember wanting to go Division I so badly. Division I's not the be all end all. It's not. Going somewhere where you're going to be appreciated as a person, and just go somewhere where you feel like seen. And it's not something that I didn't get here at Augie, just to preface for that. But I would say definitely fit is the biggest thing for a person looking to go into college athletics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very great advice. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything that sort of popped up as we've been talking?
No, I think I'm about all talked out, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, I think between the catch up yesterday and today, we've
Yeah.
really covered a lot of ground together.
Yes, I think we have too. And this was an amazing experience. So again, I thank you so much for doing this and for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bodey, for coming back to college.
Yes, awesome.